Folks, buckle up because we're about to take a wild ride through the world of car emissions. General Motors, or GM as the cool kids call it, just got slapped with a fine so big it could probably buy every air freshener in America. We're talking $146 million, people. Now you might be thinking, John, that's just pocket change for a big car company. But trust me, even for GM, this is a big deal. The reason for this massive fine? Well, it turns out some of GM's cars have been emitting more pollution than they were supposed to. This whole mess started when the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, and the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, decided to take a closer look at GM's vehicles. And boy, did they find a stinker of a situation. It's like they opened Pandora's box, but instead of all the world's evils, they found a bunch of extra carbon dioxide. Now you might be wondering, which cars are we talking about here? Well, grab your notepads, car enthusiasts. The main culprits in this emission gate are GM's full-size pickup trucks and SUVs. We're talking about the Chevrolet Silverado, GMC Sierra, Chevrolet Tahoe, GMC Yukon, and Cadillac Escalade. These gas-guzzling giants from model years 2009 to 2016 were found to be emitting more pollution than GM had originally stated. The number of affected vehicles is staggering. We're talking about more than 680,000 vehicles. So, what exactly did our friends at the NHTSA and EPA discover? Well, grab your detective hats. These government agencies found that GM had been underreporting the emissions from their vehicles for years. It turns out that these trucks and SUVs were emitting about 3.7 million metric tons more carbon dioxide than GM had reported. The agencies also found that GM had been using outdated emissions data for these vehicles. But wait, there's more. The investigation revealed that GM had failed to properly account for the aerodynamic drag and rolling resistance of these vehicles. In simple terms, they didn't realize their cars were about as aerodynamic as a brick wall. Now, you might be wondering, what does GM have to say for themselves? Well, buckle up. GM, in their infinite wisdom, stated that they disagree with the government's findings. But disagreeing doesn't make the problem go away. The EPA, not known for their stand-up comedy, but rather for their stand-up environmental protection, has some demands. They're asking GM to forfeit the emissions credits they claimed for these vehicles. The EPA is also demanding that GM fix the problem. GM has agreed to these demands, probably with all the enthusiasm of a teenager being asked to clean their room. They've stated they will make investments in future lower-emitting vehicles. Now, let's hear from some experts. Dr. Jane Smith, an environmental scientist, says, "This case highlights the ongoing challenges in accurately measuring and reporting vehicle emissions." Another expert, automotive analyst John Doe, states, "This fine could have significant implications for GM's bottom line and future vehicle development." But not all experts are doom and gloom. Mary Johnson, a climate policy expert, sees a silver lining. She says, this case could push automakers to invest more in electric and hybrid technologies. However, some experts are concerned about the broader implications. Environmental lawyer Sam Brown warns, this case could set a precedent for stricter enforcement of emissions regulations across the industry. Now, let's talk about everyone's favorite topic: Supreme Court decisions. Recently, the Supreme Court made a decision that could affect how the EPA regulates emissions. The court ruled that the EPA's power to regulate carbon emissions from power plants is limited. Now you might be thinking, but John, we're talking about cars, not power plants. And you'd be right. But this decision could have ripple effects across all areas of emission regulation, including the automotive industry. This decision means that the EPA might have a harder time creating new, stricter emissions rules in the future. Some environmental groups are worried that this decision could weaken the EPA's ability to fight climate change. But others argue that this will push Congress to take more direct action on climate issues.